Hello, my name is Aubrey Mnisi. Today I'll be presenting to you the new features in beas 9.0 Patch 3. What we have today in our agenda, it's new features in the quality control module and new features in batch tracing. In this patch, the quality control is completely revised. New design has been used. One can define colors and templates for Windows settings. We've also introduced an optional 4i principle and the electronic signature. Quality control orders are now continuously numbered. Furthering on new quality control, the QC inspection plan can now be set per time, meaning, for example, one sample per 10 minutes. The production order can now create quality control orders directly from the production order. In the item structure view, the quality control tab has been moved upwards and further rules can be defined there. And via the drag and drop functionality, it's possible to prioritize these rules. Further documents can be logged and also rules can be defined. One can also request viewing confirmation. Furthering again on our features in the quality control module, the release via transfer has been completely renewed and several items can be charged off at once. Rules that determine the target warehouse can also be defined. You can do charge off valuations on various levels, on order, on sample, and also on measurement position. Valuations can be set to be either optional or mandatory. The same applies for the scrap reason, and that is also possible in all levels. We've created a separate session to give you more depth and information about the quality control module. So now I'd like us to look at the external production, advanced pricing. The external production has been extended. It is possible to store the price in the unit of the service item. The field conversion factor, you defined the conversion between the unit of the service item and the unit of the assembly to be produced. External manufacturing is always performed in the unit of the service item. That's very important to note. All conversion calculations are executed directly in the work order structure. The price list can now be considered if consideration is activated. At this moment, price lists always have a higher priority than the stored price in the operation. If the switch consider price list is disabled, then the price that applies is the price stored in the operation. Prices are always stored in the storage unit of the service item. In pre-calculation, up to 4 scale prices can be stored, also for external operation. Now I'd like us to look at the advanced batch and serial number tracing. Now, even for partial postings, batch or serial number tracing is possible. If posting in and charge off was made with an operation, for example by means of backflashing with last operation, in this case postings are linked to the time received and the program is able to determine the tracing information. In work order structure, a small batch tracing feature has been integrated. Below to the batch which was posted in, you can see the linked batches which were charged off and with which document the material was posted to the warehouse. Thus also the supplier can be determined. Okay, furthering on our advanced batch and serial number tracing, the batch and serial number tracking window has been completely renewed. On the left side, you see the batches that are connected to each other, and on the right hand side you see transactions related to the selected batch. Okay, as you can see the documents there. Much more information is stored in this movement list. For example, the personal name is stored, not the username. This is important for when you work using a terminal, but also the linked work order, QC, etc. The document types, batch split and batch transfer are now supported. The vice versa function used in is also available, and as well as the feature delivered with delivery slip XYZ. With this function you can determine which customer received a certain batch, or in which batch was the item built in. Okay, so now looking at our next slide, customizable structure views. In the work order structure view, we had a problem with long text overlapping. The structure view is a mixed view of structures and lists, and the columns are different depending on the type of the row. To solve that problem, we included two dotted lines, as you can see there, in the right of the column, so that the structure can be moved. Then everything on the right of it will be moved also. So basically one can adjust this window by moving those dotted lines to see more detail. That any settings that one does are stored per workstation, therefore meaning that if you do certain settings in one computer, you'll then have to replicate those settings in another computer if you wish to have the same settings, because the settings are only stored per station. That's very important. Looking at our next slide, which is consideration of reservation. Reservations now are considered in APS. That means the material control must be activated, then the material will be assigned to the respective work order in time. Reservations are also taken into account in pull reports and in quality control. The reservation list has also been renewed. It is now adjustable. Origin documents can be opened directly from the displayed work orders. I'd like us to look at advanced pricing. In pre-calculation, the second price has been activated, meaning that if the first price does not give result, then the second price will be used. However, if there is no second price, the entry will be marked in red in pre-calculation. As you can see, that basically means that we don't have a second price, and therefore the entry has been marked as red. And that setting, one needs to configure that in our configuration wizard. It is also possible to work with original price list. The calculation can access the original price list, not a copy. That's very important to note. This way you can work with more than 4 price scales. Automatic calculation is disabled as it is very computationally extensive. That means after a change you need to click on calculate. Looking at our next slide, resource cost rates. Within the resources you can now also store more cost rates, like for example you do with price list for material. In the post calculation, the required resource cost rate can be then used. Currently this is only supported in the post calculation. Looking now at our advanced backflashing charge off function. The backflashing charge off screen has been extended. Now items that do not require planning are also displayed, as well as negative bill of material items. For negative BOM items, a posting is affected. Here, you can also enter extended information regarding the batch or a serial number. That means that also negative BOM items of batch and serial numbers are supported. If the batch or serial number has an automatic batch or serial number identification, then the system does automatic pre-assignment. Even an automated backflashing posting now supports negative BOM items as a new function, now also with the batch and the serial numbers. The user rights. The user rights were extended. Some new settings have been added, and also the extended user administrations in the human resource processing has been reviewed. Also, the documentation has been extended. Now you can identify much more information regarding the extended user rights. So now I would like us to look at the extended personal master, as there's been new fields added. The personal master has been extended by the display name, as you can see there, James Bond, which is our current user at this point. Normally, you have a combination of a first name, a second name, and last name, but this can also be edited manually. This name is already displayed virtually throughout the program. Moreover to that, in the login section, you can now store name and password, as well as the password validity. This is needed, for example, for the electronic signature and quality control, and optionally for terminal logon or for web application as a logon. Okay, I'd like us to look at the web applications. For web applications, now Kaba, Benzing, bweb, and EcoSeries devices are supported. Furthermore, the display of the web solution has been improved for high-resolution mobile devices. Looking at HANA, with the new application, we also use the HANA syntax. To simplify that, in beas, we have built in a converter that converts the MSQL code to HANA. At runtime, this will then be reconverted back to MS-SQL. This has been done because in the future we want to work with one source code, and therefore in this way it is much more simpler for us to keep the HANA version and the MS-SQL version in parallel. The converter is also available as part of the menu item, so one can easily access that. So now looking at the HANA service layer, the new HANA service layer also needs to be supported soon. We've achieved that by implementing an OData converter to our existing DI API object. This will be done in the next version. The preparations for this are already underway. Furthermore, the beas DI API services have been further extended, which can operate both synchronous and asynchronous in a server-oriented way, which as a result stabilizes the entire runtime and therefore also improves the performance. Now I'd like us to look at beas stability. In the SAP environment, the screen flickering has been reduced, and also the problem that beas screens were not always built up correctly has been eliminated. The design has been better adapted to SAP, and the deadlock issue has been reduced in many areas. In major transaction processes, beas attempts to generate the transaction up to 3 times, also in the event of a deadlock, meaning that should a deadlock occur, beas will attempt 3 times to generate that transaction. If the network connection drops, it will automatically be reactivated as soon as beas is able to do so. In general, a lot of work is put into stability and also into performance. I'd like us to look at documentation, which is a very important key for knowledge sharing. Okay, so looking at the documentation, we have extended the documentation with the new chapters roadmap and compatibility. In this roadmap, there isn't only what we have planned, but also what is already available, including videos and extended documentation. In the compatibility area, we have functionality compatibility that gives you an overview of which sub-functionality has been adapted in beas or replaced or not supported. We explain also the reasons why we did so that you can share this with your customers. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this presentation and your interest in beas.